actually wondering if maybe if the One Ring is powerful enough to just creativity into the One Ring, but we'll have to think about that. But in any case, we have a pregame action. We have a luck counter sighting.
Caverns, one of these strange cards from back in the day that has kind of crept its way into modern and is seeing something of a renaissance recently. Very powerful card. Not a lot of decks can really use it effectively. Rhino is one of those decks that certainly can and allows you to almost buy the ability to be on the play here if you're on the draw. And we talk a lot about play versus draw mattering so much in the modern format. This is a way to really flip that dynamic on its head.
Yeah, Gemstone Caverns, I've played a ton of Rhinos, and every time you have it in your opening hand, it just feels like like you said, you just stole the play from your opponent. And right here, we actually see a fetch land from John here, maybe a bit of a misstep. Usually against specifically, especially with Gemstone Caverns pitching Fury, you likely know it's Rhinos. Maybe you wanted to leave the fetch uncracked, but we're going to go ahead and not only are we on the play, but we're also effectively getting a time walk here on turn 2 for Matt.
Yeah, there's always a danger of your land gets iced, and then that 2-drop rots in your hand for another turn. You play the entire game 1 turn behind schedule. On the other hand, these 4-color, 5-color decks often have quite demanding mana requirements. And so getting the Triumph actually the best way to kind of solve all of that. So definitely some trade-offs there. John's suffering, though, here for that choice.
Yeah, and we see Matthew fetching the Scalding Tarn. Gonna go ahead and pick up. Looks like potentially eyeing a Steam Vents here. I would have to imagine where we want to go ahead and fire off a Cascade spell in the main phase, while John is, I guess, not shields down per se, because these creativity decks do sometimes have Spell Pierce. So looks like there's the Shardless Agent, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull up John's list here in a second to see if we have. Yep, there are 4 copies of Spell Pierce in John's list. So we'll have to see if we have one of those.
Yeah, and one of the arguments for the creativity deck is you get to main deck 4 Spell Pierce. That card is great in the format at the moment, great in the creativity deck in particular, also great against a creativity deck. So so with that as one of the top tier decks, you can see why that card would be everywhere for decks that can play it.
Yep, and as we talk about that, no Spell Pierce here from John. The Crashing Footfalls is going to resolve. Really going to need something like a Teferi Time Raveler on the next turn, which will not only bounce one of the Rhinos, also likely gain you 2 life, because you want to make sure, like, from Matthew's perspective, you do kind of have to get the Teferi off the battlefield, because you need to be able to fight on future turns over creativity with something like Force Negation. So we'll have to see, exactly what happens on John's turn, but very really wants to get it to Teferi here, and if Matthew has a Force Negation, we might even just be done right now.
Yeah, the creativity deck often is not great at playing from behind. You have a lot of these clunky cards. You're kind of casting 1 spell a turn. If your opponent can get out ahead and then keep up with what you're doing, then there's not a great way to keep up with that. Unless game in your favor, that's a lot of setup though. When you're facing down 10 power on turn 3, and there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, and we see a Wrenn and Six into pick up a land and Prismatic Ending one of the Rhinos, which is a decent exchange for John, but not exactly kind of the exchange that he wants to be making. Where normally under normal circumstances, a threat is played, you display your removal spell, answer the threat, but you've answered a third of the threat, and there's still 6 power in play on Matthew's side. And to be honest with you, Matthew might not even care about the Wrenn and Six, especially if there's another Cascade spell in hand. Might just want to go to John's face, slam another Cascade spell, and say, look, even if you arc on me, it's not even going to matter. I'm just going to kill you next turn anyways.
Yeah, John did show us and potentially Hoey as well that he does have that creativity in hand. We know thanks to Wrenn and Six that we have fetch land for Dwarven Mine into creativity rolled up for next turn, but that play carries a lot of risk with it. Any form of interaction from Hoey will be enough to disrupt that. And so normally, if you can play a longer game, you can find a window to creativity for 2, or you play creativity with backup of some kind. You land a Teferi first. Wagner just doesn't have that time right now, especially with the second Cascade spell and the second Crashing Footfalls, adding 8 more power to the board here. So, as you mentioned, yeah, John could get an Archon into play and then just die on the crackback there.
Yeah, so John is going to fetch to 9, I believe. I think we took 8 damage out of 10. The fetch is going to bring John to 9. Archon's going to go, well, Archon's not going to go into play. Never mind, we're done. But even if the Archon did go into play, John would have went up to 10, sacked the Shardless Agent, and still would have been contending with 3 Rhinos. So still would have not necessarily been out of that, but let's take a look at John's sideboard here. We have a couple of copies of Flusterstorm, an Emrakul, 3 Nature's Claim, a Turn to Earth, 2 Gale of Summer, 2 Hallowed Moonlight, a Terra Sunder, 2 Dress Down, and a Boseiju. What do you like here from John's side of things?
Love the Flusterstorms, love the Hallowed Moonlights. One of these really versatile kind of sleeper sideboard cards in Modern. Hits creativity itself, hits Rhinos, Yawgmoth, Living End, lot of other stuff as well. So some nice, cheap, instant speed answers there. Veil of Summer, potentially. The Rhinos deck has its own blue interaction like Force Negation, Mystical Dispute. So often you get into these big stack fights. Veil of Summer, very nice at giving you the win in those. And then also the Boseiju, if you expect cards like Blood Moon can contest that properly. And I think that's probably going to be it from John's side.
All right, perfect. Well, let's go ahead and see what Matt Hoey has access to potentially bring in against John's 5 color creativity deck. All right. Actually, we're not going to have Matthew Hoey's sideboard up here on screen for you, but I can read it off because I have the deck list in front of me. So we have 4 copies of Endurance, 4 copies of Force of Vigor, 3 Blood Moons, 2 Furies, a Boseiju who endures, and a Gemstone Caverns. What do you like here from Matt's side of things?
So we're on the draw, or yeah, on the draw, I like the Gemstone Caverns. That's basically true in every single matchup. And we also have the Boseiju in the sideboard, which can do some work here, but one of the nice features is letting you kind of swap your land count with the caverns in and out, so you can always max out on those if you need to. And then when that is the worst land in your deck and also legendary, you can minimize those and still have enough lands in your deck. Other than that, Endurance, Force of Vigor, not going to be at their best here. Blood Moon, one of the better cards though against creativity. They can nick out of it. They have Fable, they have other stuff, but their mana base, despite being all mountains, a lot of those are mountains that you really need to make other colors, and so making those just mountains is a pretty powerful tactic.
Right. No matter how many actual, other mountains you have in play, if there's a Blood Moon to play, you play a Dwarven Mine, it's going to come into play and tap, but you're not going to get anything off of it. Yeah, and I like the point you bring up about the Gemstone Caverns because Matthew did win game one, is going to be on the draw, so gets the board in an additional copy of Caverns alongside the 2 in the main. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. Blood Moon is a slam dunk here. And we will have to see how the post-board games play out. Now that Matthew did have the Caverns in his opening hand with an additional copy, even more likely to have one. Now that we will have to see if we have some more luck counters. And let's see. Looks like players are deciding if we're going to go ahead and take a mulligan. As far as the matchup is concerned, just from kind of a normal standpoint, who do you usually find favored in this matchup?
I think it's pretty close and also pretty intricate. I think a good Rhinos player can outmaneuver a less experienced creativity player and vice versa. I think I like the Rhino side, just kind of what you saw in game one, where creativity is a little clunky and Rhinos is pretty good at exploiting that. But definitely anyone's game, still a pretty close matchup.
Yeah, I've played this matchup quite a few times from the Rhino side of things. I do agree. I think it's a very close matchup. There is some ways to kind of leverage, play skill and stuff, and exactly when to fire off. Like the fire aces, sometimes you want to hold them for a token. Sometimes you want to hold up Dead Gone for tokens. So there is quite a bit of play, and I do see the Gemstone Caverns in Matthew's hands. So this is a 6 card hand, but if we do keep that, we will have a luck counter sighting. And Matthew can't take a look at the rest of his hand. Looks like a fire ice, a cascade spell, a gemstone, a gemstone, a footfalls, and a force. So I would have to imagine that's a keep.
Yeah, Gemstone Caverns is legendary, so you would think there's a risk involved with drawing several copies of that. The nice thing is, though, if you put one of those in, you just exile the second copy to it and get your full value that way. That said, you put a Caverns into play and you draw another Caverns for your second turn or something. Just one of the worst feelings in Modern right now.
Right. All right. Well, we're off to the races here. We do see another Gemstone Caverns, and we saw that there was a Fire Ice in Matthew's hand. Now, I'm curious to see if John is going to crack this fetch here. You did mention that, with Leyline Binding in the deck list, sometimes John just doesn't have the ability and can't afford to not crack the fetch there. Does have to get the Triome, but we will have to see if, and look at that. See, John, gets Fire Ice game one and says, you know what? I'm going to not crack this fetch line game two.
Yeah, there's also this weird dance though, right? Where if you hold your fetch lands and then maybe you have to fetch shock several lands in one go to cast your spell. Well, against a deck that's chipping away at your life total, and then if they resolve a footfall, so attacking for 8, that damage really does add up. So there are definitely trade-offs, whichever route you take there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like you said, John's going to have to go ahead and fetch shock twice here, starting the game at 14, just to play a Wrenn and Six. And if Matthew puts 10 power into play, he just doesn't even, you're already so far behind in terms of the race here. Maybe we'll see if John has a follow up to Teferi or something. But yeah, that's a very good point. Just John having to spend, that's the trade off, right? Where you don't crack the fetch, but you have to pay basically an additional 2 life to not get ice there. But that kind of leads me to believe that John maybe doesn't have a third land in his hand if he's really valuing this Wrenn and Six here, because he knows he's going to have to be able to play Teferi on 3 to kind of contest the Shardless Agent that he expects. So that maybe could tell me that John doesn't have a third land.
And look what Caverns did in this game, right? Where if John is properly on the play, he casts Wrenn on 2 and then has some breathing room before that crucial turn 3 where Hoey can try and cascade into Footfalls. As it is, Hoey's on the draw and can now punish this tap out for Wrenn and 6 by just cascading if he has the Agent or the Outburst in his hand.
Yep, and also, post board, now that we have access to Blood Moon, that's another powerful card that Matthew could go towards. Is going to fetch basics. I don't believe I saw Blood Moon in his hand, but wants to fetch the basics just in case that card is drawn. Looks like we're likely going to go for a Shardless Agent here, and yeah, this Gemstone Cavern's just doing God's work over here.
Yeah, Blood Moon is weird psychologically, where from the other side, you're hoping and praying that your opponent doesn't fetch basics because you know what that means if it's coming down to that. So really, any of the 3 drops, Blood Moon or Cascade into Footfalls, would be pretty backbreaking for John here. But at least, if it's cascading, you can cast your spells and try to fight over that. If it's Blood Moon, that just might be the game right there and then.
Yeah, exactly. And these creativity decks, I feel like at some point they used the sideboard basics, but we did see John's sideboard. I don't know if maybe that's fallen out of favor, but there's no basic lands. Well, never mind. There's a basic mountain, but that one's not going to help you that much against Blood Moon. But outside of that, there's no access to basic lands. So if a Blood Moon does resolve, he's going to have to look towards something like maybe a Fable the Mirror Breaker, get a treasure token, and able to cast some spells from there. And looks like we see Prismatic Ending take care of a Rhino, and likely going to go upstairs with the Wrenn and Six. But that means no Teferi this turn, which is probably if you're in Matt's shoes, probably a slight breath of relief.
Yeah, some of these creativity lists in the past have had the basic planes floating around somewhere because a lot of your removal is white. And so if you can get the planes, you can cast the binding, get yourself out from under the Blood Moon. Problem there is all of your fetches have to be ones that fetch mountains. And so it's only your Arid Mesas that fetch your basic planes. And so your Bloodstained Mires or your Wooded Foothills or whatever are not going to help you there.
Yeah, and this turn from John here, not the best. Wrenn and Six down tick, second Wrenn and Six just to kill the Shardless Agent. That's not really where you want to be from John's side of things. Now, did answer 2 of the creatures on Matt's side of the battlefield, and I believe Matt's hand is all reactive cards, so no second threat here. So if this Rhino is dealt with, Matt doesn't really have anything left over. We see the Rhino going upstairs, but even just the Fire Ice making it so John can't really go for creativity here. Well, I mean, John may be forced into a position where he has to, but we have plenty of answers to take down a dwarf token.
Yeah, so Hoey now with a decision maybe of do you take a turn killing the Wrenn and Six, or John's at 12. Do you just go upstairs and put him on a 3-turn clock, especially with the triple interactive cards in your hand?
Oh yeah, I definitely like going upstairs because the Wrenn and Six isn't representing too much, because if the Wrenn and Six uptick is mattering, that means that John is fetching, and every fetch John makes just makes it so much more likely that you're going to be able to kill John. And I believe this might just be lethal attack and double fire. I think I saw 2 fires. Yep. All right. That is going to do it. Matthew Hoey taking down the match over John Wagner, going to advance to 7-0. Congratulations to Matt. We're going to go ahead and try and get him into an interview. But that was kind of a beatdown, Dom.
Oh yeah, that was an absolute bloodbath. So I think that the cards just lined up well, but you're also seeing why Hoey, one of the most feared players just in the Midwest, Magic-wise, and certainly here on the NRG series. No surprise to see him atop the standings here, 7-0. Not sure if he's going to be able to double draw it in. We do have a very big tournament here, so we'll double check how exactly that math plays out. But still in a great position here. at the top of our 300 and something players, and got to be feeling great about that. And we'll ask him just how great, if and when we can get him in the booth for an interview here. We'll see if we have that rolled up. We do have a backup match, which we'll see if we can bring you part of that as well. But Hoey did his job so quickly that we got some time to kill here.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, we'll try and get Hoey into the booth. But yeah, that was just an absolute masterclass. The Gemstone Caverns in both opening hands, and you saw just how backbreaking that can be. Normally, when you make your mulligan decision, you're like, okay, I'm on the play. This hand's great. And as soon as you see, you saw Matt like put the hand up. He's like, hold on, I have pregame effects, and that feeling must just feel so bad because the Gemstone Caverns being able to take the playback just swings the game so much, especially when you're following up with 10 power on turn 3.
Yeah, so we've got some more Modern to come today, but while we wait to see where we're going next, we got Legacy for our 5K trial tomorrow. Have you been dabbling much in Legacy recently? And if so, how do you expect that to have changed with a bunch of these new Lord of the Rings cards?
So I haven't had the opportunity to play any Legacy myself, but I have been seeing on Twitter all of the deck lists that people have been posting, all of like the testing that they've been doing. I've seen there was, I can't remember the name of the card, but it's like red white X, make X 2/2, trample haste, and when you hit your opponent, you gain the Monarch. I've seen that in like some sort of red white initiative decks. That card looks pretty impressive. Obviously, Orcish Bowmasters. If you're, I'm sure we're going to see on camera tomorrow, Brainstorm in response, Orcish Bowmasters, and that's going to be kind of a beating. There seems to be some real bangers in the set for Legacy.
Yeah, you're thinking of a fourth Earlingus, or I think that's how you say it. Something in that vein, at least. Well, I'll have to practice that before my shift tomorrow, because that card is a banger. Not just in the initiative decks, but also we've seen some of these like Jeskai Delver decks where you play a creature on turn 1, you cast this card for 0 on turn 2, you connect, and now you have the Monarch suddenly, and you can run away with the game that way. And as you mentioned, Orcish Bowmasters, which you could see in Modern, you see a copy sneaking into some of these Yawgmoth decks here and there, but Legacy is where that card is poised to shine, where if everyone's casting Brainstorm and Ponder and so on, like there's no better way to punish them than a card like that. So excited to see some of those blowouts on camera tomorrow, potentially. But I do think for now, I see Matt Hoey sitting down here in that seat. So we'll see if we can get him in front of your faces and ears before too long here. Matt, can you hear us? How are you doing?
Yes, I can hear you. Pretty good, Dom. How about you?
Beautiful. We're doing good here. So you are 7-0 in our tournament. Just another day at the office here. Not going to say locked for top 8. Not going to jinx you like that, but looking pretty good. And amidst all of the hype for the One Ring and Delighted Halfling, all of these other cards that are gaining a lot of hype, you're doing your job with just good old classic Team Rhinos here.
Yeah, I don't really think there's anything to improve on this deck from Lord of the Rings. You could say that the other Cascade deck got a lot of upgrades, but I think Rhinos has enough versatility and can grind well enough that I would prefer that to playing something like Living End or a One Ring deck.
Yeah, let's touch on that quickly then, because Living End, I think, historically has been a pretty tough matchup for Rhinos. And then if there's a lot of hype around Living End, people are scared of that, you might expect a lot of anti-Cascade cards, and maybe Rhinos gets a little bit of splash damage from that. Was that something you were concerned about at all? Because I guess it hasn't played out that way for you so far.
Nope, hasn't played out that way. Wasn't particularly concerned about it. I kind of just locked in my choice to play this deck. I think it's been the best deck for a while. I don't think that any splash damage does too much to it. I mean, you have so much, like, you have a pile of Force of Vigors in the sideboard. You're good against pretty much anything people are going to pack against you.
My Twitter feed over the past week has been half people just losing their minds over the One Ring, and then the other half is people asking to borrow Rhinos cards for this tournament. So I guess you're in the latter camp, and that second camp, actually, you're doing well. We saw Connor doing well as well. Looks like you're good old-fashioned Rhinos. Nothing wrong with it at the moment.
Nope, I don't think there's anything to improve on, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I don't think the One Ring or anything from Lord of the Rings is going to change that. I think there's a bunch of cool cards that bring some other decks into the format potentially, but probably nothing to dethrone what we've seen for the past 2 years.
Sure, yeah, and the other nice thing about the Lord of the Rings set is Delighted Halfling means a lot of Yawgmoth players are going to show up, and that is a really good sign for the Rhinos players, so I'm sure you kind of had that on your mind as well.
Yeah, I was pretty happy about that. I looked around one round and saw Raja battling against another player, both playing Delighted Halflings. I was at table 1 and they were at table 2, so it's like, yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with my choice. I haven't played against the One Ring yet, and I really haven't seen it at the top tables, so maybe
Okay.
I've been lucky to dodge that.
We saw you beat Creativity here on table 1 to go to 7-0. That's another deck which I think is in the conversation, or was before, for one of the best decks in the format. Probably a matchup you're going to have to win several times to win any modern tournament. How do you feel about that matchup overall?
I don't think it's as free as the match you just watched normally. I haven't actually Gemstone Caverned at all this tournament, except those 2 games. So
it's a good time to do it.
Yeah, we'll count that at the upper tier of what my deck is capable of. I think that matchup is pretty close. My opponent just went for Creativity Raw on turn 4 both games, and I generally don't think that's the game plan that deck is supposed to take against Rhinos. I mean, he might have just been forced to do that, but I think they have enough answers and can, protract the game long enough where they can resolve a Creativity without, being threatened with lethal or through my counter spells.
Yeah, you didn't give him a lot of time to try and stitch a better Creativity together. So we'll see if someone can make you work a little harder for it over the next few rounds. But until then, congratulations on being 7-0. You got the trophy in your sights here. Good luck for the rest, and I'm sure we'll see you back on camera, maybe back in the booth before too long here.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So we will bring you back to our beautiful faces over here. We'll see if we can get you a backup match. We're not quite sure what the status on that is for now. In the meantime, we talked about Legacy quickly. I guess we can come back here, talk about Modern. If you were playing in this tournament, what would you have sleeved up? Would you have given in to the One Ring hype and tried to chase the pressures? Or would you be running something you're more familiar with? I know you've been a Rhinos tamer yourself in the past.
Yep. Stock Rhinos, baby. I am the tamer of the Rhinos. Just say, I got them on the leash. So yeah, I would have sleeved up Rhinos.
Now, how about the One Ring in Rhinos? Can we put the chocolate and our peanut butter there? Or
well, you bring that. I was actually thinking about that. You may have just spoiled some stream content over the week. But anyways, we maybe have a backup matchup for you, potentially ready to go here, and there it is. So I don't think we got Matthew Hoey against Connor Mullally, but we do have some Tron, and I'm gonna pull up the matchup here. So we have Amulet Titan against Colorless Eldrazi. Dom, I know you're a big Amulet Titan fan.
I am indeed, and that, let me tell you, that's one deck where the One Ring looks real nice, along with 5 or 6 other decks that you could name off the top of your head. So no surprise to see that there. It looks like okay, so yeah, this is not the Rhinos mirror from last round that Matthew Hoey won to go to 6-0. This is, in fact, Amulet Titan by James McCurry on the right versus Colorless Eldrazi on the left. And we've seen quite a few different Tron, Eldrazi Tron style decks. There's a lot of ways you can build around that here. And hey, a deck that's colorless and trying to ramp up in mana, I can think of a card that might belong in that deck, Devin.
Well, I am looking at the deck list here. There is sadly only one copy, and we have Karn the Great Creator. It's kind of weird because we have Karn the Great Creator, but we decided to put the one copy in the main deck and not the. Oh no, there's one in the sideboard. Never mind. So yeah, there's actually 2. One in the main, one in the board. So we, there's only one in the main deck, but with the Karn the Great Creators, we do have an additional copy in the sideboard. So it's kind of like we have 4 copies in the main deck. But yeah, that one's pretty good when you have Tron on turn 3.
Good to show respect for the lore by only having a single copy of the One Ring. Everyone else, I guess, wasn't that respectful, I suppose.
Nah, they don't care about the lore. This is the Matter Shaper on turn 3. That means the game's over, right? That's what I've been told every time Matter Shaper hits the battlefield.
The game's over for someone. I guess we put it that way.
All right, we got a bunch of lands here. You're gonna know a lot more about what's going on than I do. But we have 5 mana and a land in hand. The Titan got Thought Nuts here. I couldn't quite get a good look at the hand. I don't think there was a second payoff, but well, I mean, we kind of already have a payoff, right? Valakut plus Dryad.
Exactly, yeah. So this is one of the better starts the E-Tron deck can come up with. We have Tron on turn 3, Thornknot Seer, and Matter Reshaper. And Thornknot Seer, one of the, maybe the best Eldrazi at this point. Reality Smasher kind of showing its age a little bit, but Thornknot Seer is still a very unique effect that against any kind of combo deck, ram deck, anything like that, that's usually one of your best cards.
So we saw a Walking Ballista on turn 4 to take out Dryad, and James is just like, you know what? I got 2 more of those. Now there's land 5. We'll have to see if there's land 6 for this Valakut activation. I don't know if I saw another land at James's hand, but specifically a bounce land would go kind of hard here because then you could go bounce land, pick up a land, replay, kill the Thought Knot Seer. So we're only actually going to get one Valakut trigger with that Boseiju, I think is the last card. Don't really want to kill the Mana Ray Shaper, but looks like we're going to go ahead and fire it off.
That's the thing, right? It's like, what is the 3/2 doing for them when you have a pair of 2/4s just right there staring across at it? And yeah, the Dryad Valakut angle was a really big level up moment for Amulet over 3 years ago now, where suddenly one of your better ramp spells was also one of your better threats at the same time.
Right. Yeah. That specific addition to the amulet deck was so massive. Like you said, just being able to, and there's just so many spots where now you even summoners pact, and even if you have access to Primeval Titan, sometimes you just want to get Dryad instead to kind of clean up the board. But yeah, looks like we're going to go ahead and see an expedition map for a blast zone, which that's a little scary. That could tick up to 3 and potentially threaten the Dryads. So we'll have to, and also James did play the Boseiju, so doesn't even have access to that. Could line up a double block here. Looks like we are going to do that. I kind of like that double block. All right, so let me just get this up here. All right, so there's a Primeval Titan from James.
Yes. You saw James just like nod to himself, like, yeah, that was a pretty good draw. I kind of needed that one. And sure enough, There it was. And something like Summoner's Pact would not even have done it because of that chalice there. So had to be Titan. It was Titan. And so, yeah, James going to now take a commanding lead in this game.
Yeah, and the Dryad's in play, which means we're going to get all these Valakut triggers. It's not lethal because we can't haste the Titan. Actually, it might be lethal. Wonder why no Vesuva here. We got right. We can go battlements, pick up battlements, replay it. Gotcha. Okay. Because I was thinking if we wanted to get a Vesuva, but now we could just go pick up battlements, replay it, haste the Titan, and then get a Vesuva when we attack with the Titan. And that is going to do it. There we go. James is going to go ahead and pick up game number 1. Going to go ahead and take a look at Joseph's deck list here. Eldrazi Tron. I'm sure we've seen this before. Some Mana Shapers. Also in the sideboard here, this is mostly going to be a Karn sideboard. We get a Walking Ballista, Sundering Titan, couple Surgicals, and then All Is Dust. So Karn targets Chalice the Void, Pithing Relic of Progenitus, Liquid Metal Coating, Ratchet Bomb, Stonebrain, Torpor Orb, and Snaring Bridge, Trinosphere, and the One Ring. We'll have to go ahead and see exactly what Joseph wants to go towards here. But yeah, most of this is just a Karn sideboard. So not a ton that's going to be brought in here. Maybe the Surgicals, but potentially wants to keep those at home. And let's see if we can go ahead and get James's deck list pulled up here for you in just a second. All right, here is James, Amulet Titan. Tom, we got a couple of spicy ones here in the sideboard. A Koglin Yadaro, a Tyrannex Rex, and then alongside a couple trackers, 4 Gus, 3 Dismembers, 2 Forces, an EE, and a Boseiju. Talk to me about this, the Koglin Tyrannex Rex.
I mean, but both of these lists, the Amulet list and the E-Tron list, are pretty inventive versions of their respective archetypes. So you see that Gretchen Titchwillow as a cheeky runoff, just hiding out in James's main deck there. Yeah. The Litjara Mirror Lake down there in the land section. So a lot to feast your eyes upon. I think as it pertains to this matchup, Dismember can be pretty good dealing with Thornot's Reality Smasher. Tireless Tracker as another threat, but not a particularly inspiring one. And then this actually could be a matchup for the big boys, for Koglin Yadaro and then maybe Tyrannex Rex as well. Just either one going to be the biggest thing on the board. And then the Kogler as a way to remove a Chalice of the Void at a profit, remove something that Khan the Great Creator found, let you continue playing the game.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Dom. I saw that blue land in the third row. That I don't even know what the name of it is, but I legitimately thought it was a 4th copy at Slayer West that just kind of got moved over, and I don't even know what that card does. But anyways, let's go ahead and see if we can get game number 2 here for you in just a second. All right, we're already underway. Things are happening fast. I want to actually pull up the Amulet Titan deck list. I want to read that card because I've never seen it. All right, Lajara Mirror Lake, excuse me. So ETB's tap, add a blue, and you can pay 5, sacrifice it, make a token that's a copy. Oh, so you can kind of, okay, got it. So you can kind of make a copy. It's to make a copy of Titan, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so instead of having the Slayer Stronghold Sunhome kill in this version, you have, if you have double Amulet, you get the Mirror Lake, you make another Titan, and then the Battlements gives both of those Titans haste, and then you can chain stuff together from there. So lots of ways to eat that Reese's. Thought Seer again, going to look at James's hand and see 2 copies of From Your Titan once again here. So we got some redundancy on the threats. Going to find whichever land we need with the Expedition map. So maybe, given where the hand is right now, you just have to take the Amulet of Vigor and try to make the hand less explosive. Joseph taking the one of the Titans there, so perhaps suggesting, yeah, maybe Joseph has another Thought Seer rolled up or some other way to answer that second Titan.
Yeah, and we see the Amulet of Vigor not deployed. Now the Chalice is on the battlefield. I'm going to assume it looks like it. Okay, that must have been cast on 0 because we played the Mind Stone on turn 2 because I believe those are both in the battlefield.
Yeah.
So I guess we didn't play the Amulet because we wanted to crack the Expedition map for a bounce lane, which kind of makes sense because then you can still go this turn, cast the Amulet, then bounce lane, and then you could still just kind of go about your business. That was an Azusa promo, right?
It was, yeah. So looks like Azusa going to be coming down this turn, and that will not be the last game action of the turn, I'm assuming here.
No, we're definitely not done. So we can go, yep. So we have 2 mana there. So this gets us to 5. So 2 floating with the Dryad. Okay. So not quite enough to cast Titan this turn, but next turn, this game's probably going to be over next turn, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, so Joseph is in check, effectively. If he doesn't remove the Titan or have a really nice turn here, then that Titan is coming down, raining some lava with Dryad and Valakut, and the game is going to end. So big pressure on Joseph to make something good happen here. And that's Torpor Orb. Okay, so that will shut off the ETB trigger from the Titan. We'll still get the attack trigger if the Titan lives for a turn. So only really delaying the inevitable there.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Torpor Orb, I believe, is not worded like Elishnorn, so it only counts it only counts creatures. So lands actually are still in play for Dryad Valakut, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the Chalice, as you said, on 0, that's really where it tends to be in this matchup. It's too slow to like get the amulets or the grazers or anything, and playing it on 0 effectively is just meddling mage on Summoner's Pact, essentially. So double amulet there for James. We're playing this again. We're playing the Titan. Just here's my Colossal Dreadmaw.
Colossal Dreadmaw beatdowns, baby. You love to see it. You know, one deck has Matter Reshaper, one deck has Colossal Dreadmaw. Who's really favored? We don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, we have the new Ixalan set coming up. I'm very excited to see another printing, another art of Colossal Dreadmaw back on its home plane there, joining the roster.
Now that I think about it, Don, we should probably come up with a Dandian game that's just Colossal Dreadmaws. What do you think about that?
Okay, you can do that. I don't think I will be partaking myself, but I fully support you in your efforts here.
All right, fine. Back to the game here. What do we have? So we have a construct token made. The 6/6 was cast, and Joseph is kind of in a tough spot. So we're gonna Surgical Extraction. I wasn't sure if we were gonna bring those in, but it looks like Joseph did go towards those, and we're gonna get these sagas out of here, which is not too bad because you do kind of have the Torpor Orb. Well, actually, I was gonna say to check the Titan, but it doesn't even stop the attack trigger, so it doesn't really check the Titan.
No, Surgical Extraction, not a card with an obvious role in this matchup. Like, if you were a Thoughtseize deck or you had ways to get the first Titan in the graveyard, maybe it could enter the conversation. As it is, though, the best you can hope for is I play my Thornlord Seer and I exile the first copy, so it's not even eligible for that. So not a card that I think you should be boarding in here, or frankly, against most decks, and that's why, you know, there's this old joke about people boarding in Surgical against everything. These days, you don't even see that many Surgicals because it doesn't have a clear role anymore.
Yeah, the only deck that doesn't effectively board them in is Mill, but that's just because they put them in their main deck.
Sure, yeah, it is actually part of your combo or your plan, if you like, in Mill. Mill may have other issues to contend with, but certainly a decent choice there.
True. All right. So James is going to go ahead and let the Surgical resolve. And I mean, from Joseph's perspective, we got a second Saga, so we can make some tokens, but looks like 3 artifacts, so we can only make a 4/4, which means we'd have to double block the Titan. Well, actually, might not even get a chance to double block because if James draws a land, you could even say go bounce land, play 2 lands to get the 4 lands, combat, attack with Titan, and that would actually trigger the Dryad. So you have to think of that as well. And if the Dryad triggers, you don't even have a double block available to you
and
if you're in Joseph's seat.
there is a foil reality smasher there from Joseph Tucker, who we have some locals who know Joseph in the chat saying he is a long-time Eldrazi Tron player, was very excited to pick up his foil smashers years and years ago at this point. So glad to see them still getting some use, although not looking super impressive in the face of a gigantic 6/6 on this board state.
Yeah, 5/5 not great against Colossal Dreadmaw. So I'm going to assume going to combat here means that James probably didn't draw land, because my assumption is that if you did, you'd want to, you'd likely want to trigger the Valakutes to be able to kind of get that Reality Smasher out of here before it blocks, because this seems like a pretty easy double block for Joseph. But if maybe James just drew another Primeval Titan, maybe he doesn't really care about that. All right, Thought here is going to hit the bin. Going to go ahead and get an extra card here for James. See what he can find. Can maybe get a good look at James's hand here. We're going to go ahead. That's a 3rd amulet. Okay. Don't know if we did the 3rd copy of that. We're going to... Oh, Boseiju Chalice. Okay. Well, that kind of gives away what James may have drawn.
Yes. Can you tell what it is yet?
Yeah. All right. So Pack's going to go ahead and get Titan now. I believe... So how many... What's that? What did he get? I don't know what that card is. You got to help me.
Oh, that's Devon. That's Gretchen Titchero. Right,
oh, it's Gretchen. Okay. All right.
So we are officially going infinite. So the way this is going to work is we have 3 amulets. So the Growth Chamber entering play is going to make 6 mana. We can then pay 4 of that to activate Gretchen, put a land into play, draw a card. So we're netting mana and netting a card through each cycle there. So James is going to draw his deck and then play however much of that he sees fit to have his fun on camera here.
I see. All right. We're gonna pick up the whole deck, and then I'm assuming you can just like play. We're at 18, so you can just go. I mean, you could even leave a couple of lands in the deck, and then maybe just go like second Dryad, bounce land, make 6, play Titan. Yeah, you can. Yeah, the world is your oyster if you're James McCory.
Yes, he has demonstrated a loop, as the kids like to say.
Looks like we're explaining the loop here. Infinite, well, not actual infinite mana, but I mean close to enough to infinite mana.
Yes. Now, we kind of joked before about, well, why don't we put the One Ring in Eldrazi Tron? And I think there might actually be one of the more plausible homes for it, given that, you are a fully colorless deck, so you don't have as many options. You have some acceleration in there. We saw the Mind Stones, and you can play your own Gemstone Caverns, and so on. And you kind of need a way to just like go over the top, right? If the Eldrazi themselves aren't cutting it, you have your cards and so on. But yeah, if you ramp out into a One Ring and maybe you played a Chalice that's locking the game down before, like that seems like a pretty good way to put yourself ahead to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was, I want to say it was House of Mana who I saw top 8 at the Modern Challenge yesterday with specifically Amulet with the One Ring. So, I mean, the One Ring is essentially everywhere at this point, and I know that you were talking about that as well. It seems like a pretty good addition to that deck, just being able to kind of go through and find a bunch of stuff, which we don't see present in James's list, but that Gretchen Titchwillow, that's the first time I've ever seen that card before, and that one didn't look too bad, right?
Well, here's a secret about Amulet. So I would say about 50-something cards in the deck are locked in. You've got the core in place, and then you have 6 or 8 slots to do whatever the hell you want with. And people come up with some crazy ideas. I've tried some pretty silly stuff in the past. I think at this stage, especially with the One Ring, those flex slots are a little bit more spoken for now. You can fill those in a little bit easier. But back in the day, it was easy to talk yourself into, yeah, I'll play a 1 Gretchen Titchwellow, or and there was some more unhinged stuff you could do as well. So I think that's going to do it for the Magic that we have for you this round. Probably going to have a little bit of a longer break here as we wait for round 8. We'll be back with you for that. In the meantime,